told the Associated Press, "I'm worried about how many bodies we're going to find." One Houston woman said Monday that she presumes 6 members of a family, including 4 of her grandchildren, died after their van sank into the Greens Bayou in East Houston, though Houston emergency officials couldn't confirm the deaths. Well, it was confirmed today. The Associated Press, her brother-in-law was driving the van Sunday when a strong current took the vehicle over a bridge into the bayou. The driver was able to get out and urge the children to escape through the back door, but they could not. So, folks, that's some of the realities sadly taking place. The Houston metro area, for your information, covers about 10,000 square miles. It's an area slightly bigger than New Jersey. It's crisscrossed by about 1,700 miles of channels, creeks, and bayous that drain into the Gulf of Mexico, about 50 miles to the southeast from downtown. The storm generated an amount of rain that would normally be seen only once in more than 1,000 years, said Edmund Russo, a deputy district engineer for the Army Corps of Engineers, which was concerned that floodwaters would spill around a pair of 70-year-old reservoir dams that protect downtown Houston. And rescuers, meanwhile, were continuing plucking people from neighborhoods all over the city. Mayor Sylvester Turner put the number by police at more than 3,000. Coast Guard said it had rescued more than 3,000 by boat and air and was taking more than 1,000 calls per hour. Chris Thorne was among those many volunteers still helping with the mass evacuations that began Sunday. He drove with a buddy from Dallas area with their flat-bottom hunting boat to pull strangers out of the water. He said, "I couldn't stay at home and watch it on TV and do nothing since I have a boat and all the tools to help," he said. Mandatory evacuation was ordered for the low-lying Houston suburb of Dickinson, home to about 20,000. Police cited the city's fragile infrastructure in the floods, limiting workers, utilities, and concern about the weather forecast. And in Houston, questions continue to swirl about why the mayor did not issue a similar evacuation order. A lot of questions are being asked. Turner has repeatedly defended the decision and did so again today and yesterday, insisting that a mass evacuation of millions of people by car was a greater risk than enduring the storm. Both the county judge and I sat down together and decided that we were not in a direct path of the storm, of the hurricane. And the safest thing to do was for people to stay put, make the necessary preparations. I have no doubt that the decision we made was the right decision, he added. Can you imagine if billions of people had left the city of Houston and then tried to come back right now? By Monday night, 7,000 people had arrived at the city's largest shelter set up inside the George R. Brown Convention Center, which originally had an estimated capacity of 5,000. The Red Cross spokesperson Lloyd Zeal said that volunteers made more space inside the center, which also was used to house Hurricane Katrina refugees from New Orleans back in 2005, in part by pushing some cots closer together. And a shortage of cots means some people will have to sleep in chairs around the floor, but the center settled down at night after an occasional chaotic day that saw thousands of evacuees arrive in the pouring rain, and officials and volunteers at the Times rushed to attend to those with medical needs. So, folks, that's just a little sound of things that are going on there when you're dry and in your home and your car, listening to all of what's happening there in Texas, and then Louisiana's getting a bunch of rain there, and looks like there's going to be a lot of problems there as well. But forecasters expect the system to stay over water still at this point with 45-mile-per-hour winds for 36 hours, and then head back inland east of Houston sometime tomorrow. The system will then head north and then lose its tropical strength. But before then, up to 20 more inches. If you're counting it in centimeters, 51 centimeters of rain could fall, according to the National Weather Service. Director Louis Usolini said. That means that the flooding will get worse in the days ahead, and the floodwaters will be slow to recede once Harvey finally moves on. So sometime today or early Wednesday, parts of the Houston region will probably break the nearly 40-year-old U.S. record for the biggest rainfall from a tropical system, 48 inches, set by Tropical Storm Emilia in 1978 in Texas, according to meteorologists there. And the amount of water in Houston was so unprecedented that the Weather Service on Wednesday had to update the color charts on its official rainfall maps to indicate the heavier totals. And then in Louisiana, the images of the devastation in Houston stirred painful memories for many Hurricane Katrina survivors. So if you add PSD, add that to the mix. Well, here's one. It really evoked a lot of emotions and heartbreak for the people who are going through that now in Houston. Ray Grata said that he picked up sandbags for his New Orleans home, which flooded during 2005. Wow. There's an angle that you don't hear. Yeah. There's people that have PSD or remember that and just make them very, very nervous and anxious and upset. Can you imagine how a little upset you would be with not much sleep, being in a shelter and not knowing what you're going to be able to come home to, what could be salvaged, and maybe the reality that you don't have any kind of insurance? Wow. Wow. Billions and billions of dollars is the estimate right now for the Texas coast of how much money it's going to cost to actually get in there and rebuild infrastructure and get houses and businesses, tens of thousands of businesses too, in addition to homes damaged there. It's just insane to see some of the pictures that are online, as I mentioned yesterday, but today just to even see even more and learning more each and every day. But the sad part of this whole thing, and with hurricanes, is sometimes when they're stationary and this thing just doesn't seem to want to blow out anytime soon, it just is stalled, meaning more rain and more flooding. And they've had to actually let a dam out again in Houston flood into other neighborhoods so they don't flood the downtown Houston area. But the mayor and the judge apparently sticking by their word, saying that they made you're going to hear news reports and in the coming weeks and months ahead that the mayor made a bad decision, but he believes that he made the best decision. If you had millions of people trying to pour back into the city since the rains receded, it would just be a nightmare. So it was a tough decision. It's just a very populated area, so it was a tough decision. I don't imagine they believed, and just by thinking here, nor anybody, or even meteorologists, to believe that it would be this severe, because there was no lead-in. There was believed to be some flooding, but not to this proportion, not to the record proportion. 1,000-year flood? No. Nobody was talking about that. I do remember here in the Bay Area, back in 2004, remember the hurricane that hit Punta Gorda and destroyed that, pretty much devastated that area? Well, that was meant for Tampa. It jogged, 90 miles or so, and it missed us. We dodged the bullet, but they would show maps of downtown Tampa underwater. So we're kind of like a mixing bowl. Tampa's on a peninsula. So if you're ever looking at a map of Tampa, Florida, where I'm actually doing the show from, you can check it out. But they showed the downtown area, and it was scary. They would show that it rise. I mean, Tampa General would be underwater. There's no pump that keep that seawater down. There's just no way. But it didn't happen, but it could still be a reality. You're sitting near the Gulf there, and they got the Atlantic on one side, the Gulf on the other. Who knows? And the year is still not even done. Here it is, August. We got September. And sometimes you see that in late September, sometimes even those storms to come up the Atlantic. Who knows? Hopefully it'll just die down. We'll not see any more of this, but just be ready, just in case, like I said, with the emergency plan or contingency plan to get out as soon as possible. So if you have an emergency plan, get some extra money, a bug-out bag, just in case you need to get out if you're along the coast. It still could be this year in the cards that you could be the one. Not Texas, but you. It could be me. I might be doing For the People. You imagine a boat somewhere. I don't want to be in a boat doing For the People, but, who knows? Got the laptop, got a microphone, we could do it. Be interesting, but I would do it. Absolutely. But I'd be safe. Make sure my family's safe, and I know that's what you want to do. So, Donald Trump, Texas today, surveying the response to the devastating tropical storm Harvey, the first major natural disaster of his White House tenure, as officials in Houston struggle to manage the massive floodwaters. Officials in Harris County, where Houston is located, they're saying that their reservoirs built to handle drainage water were beginning to overflow, and they released water to alleviate pressure of the two dams, a move that would add to flooding along the Buffalo Bayou waterway that runs through the area. This is something that they say, again, we've never seen before. This is Jeff Linder, a meteorologist with Harris County Flood Control District. We have uncertainty in how the water is going to react. This is what he says. We have uncertainty, how the water is going to react when released from the reservoirs, when they hit overflowing drainage. Officials encourage residents in 6 neighborhoods around the reservoirs to evacuate before the water levels around their homes rise. So many more people have to evacuate. A lot of people thought they were in the clear. That was the worst, but no, the worst is still to come, according to experts. Harvey has rolled energy markets and wrought damage estimates to be in the billions of dollars, with rebuilding likely to last beyond Trump's current 4-year term in the office. Leaving now for Texas, I guess he's in flight right now. Trump said on Twitter this morning before he left the White House to begin his trip, leaving now for Texas for the real Donald Trump. Trump was scheduled to arrive in Corpus Christi, near where Harvey came ashore on Friday as the most powerful hurricane to strike in more than 50 years. He will later go to the Texas capital of Austin, with much of the damage in Houston has been rain-related. The storm's winds picked up overnight, bending street signs, tearing at metal fences in downtown and much of Houston's metropolitan area. And this is the population. I told you how populated it was. 6.8 million people live there. Well, remained underwater. 6.8 million remained underwater, with some parts of the region according to more than 40 inches of rain since the storm's arrival. Dangerous rescues still continuing. Police overnight, firefighters, National Guard. Like I say, this is like something in a movie or something like that you would see living out like this. This is just, this is Texas's, I guess, version, you could say, of Katrina, because it's the only thing in recent memory that comes to mind, at least for me, talking about storms. But what a mess, folks. What a mess. The American Red Cross, again, good place to give your money, or the Salvation Army. They both do a great work. Samaritan's Purse is another one that's actually got involved with the whole deal. But forecasters did draw comparisons to Hurricane Katrina. So I'm not the only one, okay, which lay waste to New Orleans and killed 1,800 people. We don't know if the death toll is going to rise there. God, I hope not. But it's the worst that they've remembered. And officials believe that about 1,000 households remain to be rescued still. So they're still trying to get people to safer ground as we speak. The UN Weather Agency said the high volume rainfall produced by the storm is probably linked to climate change associated with global warming, which increases the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. Among the most recent deaths from Harvey was a man who drowned on Monday night while trying to swim across flooded Houston area roads.